सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। Hari Om, salutations to one and all. So the Nirvana Shatkam, we have seen that Shankaracharya ji negated the false identification with the gross body in the first verse, with the subtle body in the second verse, and with the modifications of the subtle body in the third verse. Once again we will do the third verse. Okay. Let us chant. न मे द्वेष रागौ न मे लोभ मोहौ मदो नैव मे नैव मात्सर्यभावः न धर्मो न चार्थो न कामो न मोक्षः चिदानन्दरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्। So here Shankaracharya says, Name Dvesha Ragau. So Raga and Dvesha, attachment and aversion. See, there are three basic desires that all of us have. All beings have actually, not only human beings. Human beings can be aware of it. One is the desire to be there forever. We don't want to die. One is a desire for knowledge. I want to know. Another is a desire to be happy at all times. So these are three fundamental desires. Naisargik Ichha it is called. We are born with it. Actually we are born because of that. Because these three desires don't get fulfilled, there are many lives that we keep taking. So these are three fundamental desires. But not being aware of that, when we identify with the body, mind, intellect and we feel incomplete, then we have cultivated desire for object, emotions and thoughts. So as we saw in the beginning, that sense of incompleteness makes us seek happiness in the world outside, depending on our own tendencies, our own vasanas. So we have a desire for name, fame, prosperity, different sense objects, people, etc. Now those desires get fulfilled, but the basic desire doesn't get fulfilled, and hence we still feel incomplete. Now when I don't know that these are my three fundamental desires which should get fulfilled, one only imagines pleasure in some object, some kind of situation, some types of beings or people, and starts brooding over them, that when I get this, then I will be more happy. And that brooding is what creates that raga, attachment. Dhritarashtra wanted to become the king. He was blind, he was denied the kingdom. Ultimately, see the play of destiny, that he became the king. So he got what he wanted. But yet, did he become happy? No. Now he wants his son to be the king. And he is so attached to his son that he forgets his duties. So the brooding starts. Not realizing, a human being doesn't realize that my desires are getting fulfilled, but yet I am not feeling happy because my fundamental three desires, which are to be there forever, to gain knowledge, and to be happy at all times, they don't get fulfilled at all. So one only thinks that maybe this object did not give, that object will give. Maybe this place did not give, that place will give. So one broods over what one doesn't have and gets attached. There was one disciple who went to the master and he said that, I have a lot of agitation in my mind. I have achieved many things in life, but still there is a lot of disturbance in my mind because there is so much more to achieve. Sorry. So there is so much more to achieve, and what do I do about it? How do I make myself quiet? He said, your problem is not the lack of something, but your problem is that you do not know that you lack nothing. That is your problem. But we don't know that our nature is Purnata. What we are seeking, we already have, but just that we are not aware of it and we are seeking it in the wrong place. Hence, a person who becomes aware starts focusing on the fulfillment of the three fundamental desires, not the other desires. That will happen as it has to happen by law of karma. It will continue to keep happening. Some desires will get fulfilled, some will not get fulfilled. But if I want to finish this cycle of birth and death, I have to focus on the fundamental three desires, which are fulfilled only when I know the absolute truth within. So we said in the beginning on the first day that wants get fulfilled, but wanting doesn't get fulfilled. Why the wanting doesn't get fulfilled? Because the basic cause, the basic three desires, they are not fulfilled. So when a person understands this fact, the attention will no more be on brooding over what I don't have and avoiding what I don't like. Attention will focus on gaining the knowledge by which these three will be fulfilled. The three basic desires cannot be fulfilled by any kind of action or by achieving anything. They can be fulfilled only when we have the knowledge of the self. And hence the 3 pointers, Sat, Chit and Anand. When I understand myself to be Sat and not just this object, but basic isness or existence, that sense of I am, without adding anything else to it. That I am will never become I am not. Shankaracharya ji says that nobody can feel their own absence. If anybody can feel their own absence, who is the one who feels? Somebody has to be there to know their own absence also. So I will never become non-existent, meaning immortality is my nature, which is what my basic desire is, because identified with the body, I feel I am perishing, I am going to die. Tomorrow's verse will come to that. Name mrityu shanka. So I don't have any fear of death also, because body means perishable. And identified with the body, we feel we are perishable, but our nature being immortal, we don't want to die. So knowing myself as Sat, person becomes free from the fear of death. Knowing myself as Chit, the person becomes free from this insecurity. All these impurities, they exist in the mind. All raga, dvesha, kama, krodha, lobha, they all exist in the mind. Consciousness which enlivens the mind and the intellect is not affected by any of these. It is the principle of knowledge, because of which I know everything else. And knowing myself to be Anand, I become free from all dependencies in the world. Because all dependencies are to become happy. So that Ananda which is my nature, so I become independent. When a person knows Sat Chit Anand, and that's why Nididhyasana gives rise to that knowledge. That Chidananda Rupa Shivoham, when I say again and again, on one hand, the raga and dvesha which is there, that becomes weak. On the other hand, my connection with my own self becomes strong. And the person feels fulfilled when the self-knowledge one attains. So here when he says, Name dvesha raga, raga is strong attachment, strong like, possessiveness, and it comes from fanciful thinking. Sankalpa prabhavan kaman, tyaktva sarvan asheshata. Completely one has to let go. Because if raga and dvesha is there in the mind, a person cannot contemplate steadily. Mind will be pulled and pushed by raga and dvesha. So raga is attachment, possessiveness, arises out of fanciful thinking, imagination of pleasure. That's why in the Gita, Sthita Prajna Lakshana also it is said, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Upajayate. By brooding over the sense objects. Sense objects here means everything apart from the subject. By brooding over them, one creates attachment. And what is dvesha? A strong aversion, a strong dislike. Associated with a painful memory, then I don't want something. Or again, imagination of pain. If raga comes by imagination of pleasure, dvesha comes by imagination of pain. So for when I have dvesha in my mind, the word dvesha, Akhandanandaji Maharaj calls it he splits it very nicely. He says dvesha is dvi-visha. Don't do sandhi, because dvi-visha doesn't become dvesha. E plus E becomes E. So it's not sandhi, but he just splits it. Dvi-visha, meaning it is double poison. How it is double poison? First of all, it's poison in my heart. that when it arises in my heart becomes disturbed, polluted, I lose my peace of mind, and then it spoils the relationship. Because out of dvesha, when one acts, it will be out of hatred. One will not have harmony in relationship. So this raga and dvesha, they both, generally the mind functions in raga and dvesha. How to get out of that? Why should we even get out of it? Sometimes people ask that question. Swamiji, we are living in samsara, we are grahasthi. This attachment is natural. How we will get out of attachment? To be detached, I have to leave everything and go. That I can't do. But the very fact that Bhagavan tells Arjuna that you stay here, Arjuna wants to go away actually. And he poses as though he has got Vairagya. So he has no dvesha towards the Kauravas. Bhagavan says, no, you stay here. Because this is the field where raga and dvesha will get neutralized. If I cannot neutralize my raga and dvesha where I am there, where I am staying, whichever role I am playing, it is impossible to neutralize it away from it. Somewhere sitting quietly, one will build new raga and dvesha. Even when we come to Vedanta course, we leave everything and we come to study. Or we go to a camp. We leave everything, go and stay in a camp for 5 days, 7 days. Don't we create new attachments and aversions there? People get attached to their seat to listen to detachment. This is my seat. Why did you come and sit here? In Gurudev's time, they used to get attached to the pillars in the hall. So this is my pillar, because I need back support. That time not many chairs are not there, everybody is sitting down. So they come 10 minutes before and occupy all the pillars. We create new attachments. So if we don't learn how to utilize raga and dvesha where we are, it is impossible to get out of them running away from it. Why should we get out of raga and dvesha? Number one, the moment there is raga and dvesha, I get blinded. My duty is, I swerve from my duty. Dhritarashtra could not do his duty. A student who is attached to a certain pleasure, even if there is an exam coming up, will not be able to do justice. If one falls for that pleasure, he is gone. Any form of attachment and aversion makes a person distracted from the duty. 2, the person's mind becomes inflexible. Because raga means insistence, that this should be like this. And dvesha also means insistence. It appears that they are two different things. But if you go deeper into it, raga and dvesha both are one only. Because I have dvesha towards somebody whom I cannot accept, because I want that person to be in a particular way. I have dvesha towards a situation, that why this happened to me, I don't like this, because I have insistence. So both are one and the same actually. So that insistence only creates inflexibility, and that is sure cause of sorrow. Our sorrow doesn't come from people, doesn't come from world outside. Our sorrow comes from our raga and dvesha. So I have a time-tested formula for sorrow. My favorite formula, which I give to everybody. And if it does not work, money back guarantee. You can try. What is the time-tested formula for sorrow? Insistence plus resistance is equal to sorrow. The more I insist and the more I resist, misery, 100%. If we insist that the audio player should play, we will be miserable. But if we accept, okay, did not play today, so with whatever voice we have, sing. Audience has to bear the torture, not me. So, we sing. No insistence. Resistance and insistence create sorrow. And it is not fair if I leave you with this formula for sorrow, because we are not seekers of sorrow, we are seekers of ananda. So what is the formula for ananda or happiness? Simple. Acceptance plus independence is equal to happiness. The more I am able to accept life as it comes, and the more I drop my dependencies, the more happy I am, more contented I am. So raga and dvesha don't allow us to live in that acceptance and flexibility of accepting life as it comes. So they make us blind, they make us rigid, they reduce the enjoyment for us. In what sense? I can enjoy only half the world which I am attached to. Half the world which I have aversion to, I can't enjoy. It burns my heart. But a person who has no raga and dvesha enjoys fully. And that person actually enjoys completely. Some of you who have been with Gurudev, you should see Gurudev eating food. Thoroughly he will enjoy, and how he will eat. Sometimes that rasam and all that which is given on the banana leaf. And especially there will be some elite class people who are near him. To tease them, he will wantedly lick his whole hand like that. And the sweets, and he used to like hot food. Hot means chili. So he would enjoy, he relish. But no craving for it before that, no craving for it after that. No raga and dvesha. If it is there, it is there. If it is not there, it doesn't matter. So, in the Gita, that is the quality of a Sthita Prajna which is given. Raga dvesha viyukta istu vishayan indriya ischaran. One is moving in the sense objects, because the question there Arjuna asked is, how does one move? Rajeta kim. So how does one live amongst the sense objects? Same sense object which causes sorrow, don't bind him at all. How? No raga and dvesha. Raga dvesha viyukta istu vishayan indriya ischaran. How does he do that? Atma vasher vidhe atma. Because the person is content with the self, by the self, living as the self. Prasadam adhigacchati. The mind is at peace. So raga and dvesha, the more we neutralize them, the more there is peace. More there is acceptance of life as it comes. Raga dvesha viyukta istu. So raga dvesha make us blind. They make us swerve away from our duty. They make us rigid and inflexible. And sometimes raga and dvesha destroys the very object of attachment, which is the sad part. Dhritarashtra was so attached to Duryodhana, but did he not become the cause of his death? If he had not acted out of raga and dvesha, if he had said very clearly that this much belongs to the Pandavas, give it back, he would have been able to save Duryodhana. But he could not do that. Hence we find that sometimes our attachment destroys the very object of attachment. And hence destroys us also. So there are many reasons why raga and dvesha should not be given up. And the most important reason for a meditator, for a student of self, the main reason is because raga and dvesha don't allow the mind to be steady. And without a steady mind, this contemplation on the truth is not possible. Even if we say Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham, the mind will go to, that Shiva. I tell you, that friend of mine, 5 years ago, he ditched me in business. I was so loyal to him. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. One is saying Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham, but the mind is on something else only, because the raga and dvesha will not allow. How to get out of this raga and dvesha? Just by saying Name Dvesha Raghav, it will not happen. That is the last stage where one has to do. So there are 4 stages. One is the Udara Avastha. The Raga and Dvesha manifest in their full form, which is our present state, where they are there. And we are not even aware that they are there. Then becomes Vichinna Avastha. So now and then it becomes dormant. So when we go to the camps, when we do some meditation, when we do some sadhana, for some time it becomes dormant. Like in Arjun's case, suddenly now it appears that it has become dormant. It appears that he has got Vairagya, but he has not got. It's an appearance of Vairagya. Vichinna Avastha, where it is in a hidden state. It is there, but it has become dormant, hidden. Then comes Tanu Avastha. Consciously by sadhana, I reduce it. So what is the sadhana to reduce raga? To see, the Pratipaksha Bhavana is a sadhana to reduce raga. To see the pain in what I am attached to see the painful side of what I am attached to, and to see the pain of attachment itself. That helps to reduce raga. Example, early morning when I have to come here or I have to go for jogging, I may be attached to sleep. Now if I have to push myself, what do I have to do? I have to see the pain of that pleasure. That if I am going to sleep, my health is going to deteriorate. I am going to become a slave of my own tamas. I am going to lose out on keeping my body fit. I have to see the pain. And I have to see the pleasure of the pain that I take. That I have to get up and go for jogging, then I have to see that pleasure, that how it will increase my health, how it will improve my entire day's functioning. So seeing the pain of pleasure and seeing the pleasure of pain helps us to reduce raga. That is what Bhaja Govindam does. See the painful side of the opposite gender's body. See the painful side of money. See the painful side of fame. See the painful side of all these things to which we have given exaggerated value. So we have to deflate it. It's not in the outside object. Money does not have pain or pleasure. But I have given that much of inflated value to it. I have to deflate. The deflation happens by Pratipaksha Bhavana. That is one way. Second is, I have to put myself through a certain discipline. It is not only intellectual, it is a question of feeling and actually living. So if I am attached to, let us say, our favorite example, Black Forest cake. If I am attached to that, I have to prevent myself from eating that, and I should also prevent myself from thinking about that. That is why in our culture there is a concept of vrata. So if I am attached to onion, then I will not eat onion on, let us say, a Monday. In Goa, they are so attached to that fish. But that Shravan month, they are not allowed to eat fish. So they are literally like fish out of water. 30 days. When these 30 days will end? But that's the training. Those who go to this Sabarimalai, 40 days vrata they have to do. Earlier they used to do 40 days. Now it happens like this. Instant vrata. But the reason why that 40 days is given, because in that vrata, I learn to overcome my attachment, learn to understand that even without this I can be happy. So only intellectually I cannot philosophize saying, yeah, I have seen the pain in the... I have to resist and I have to not do it. So raga goes by these two. Seeing the pleasure of pain, pain of pleasure, actually avoiding the contact, Dvesha, how does it go? Dvesha goes by seeing the goodness. In Dvesha, our focus is only on the negative, something which I don't like. So I have to consciously start seeing the goodness in what I don't like or who I don't like. At least the mind will become balanced. One. If somebody has actually hurt me or given me pain, what I should do? Invoke forgiveness and compassion. Then the Dvesha will go. But how long to keep forgiving? If they keep doing again and again, you keep forgiving. Why? Because I want my peace, so I have to forgive from inside. Nowhere else in any other scripture of the world you will find this kind of a teaching, which is found in the Gita, where Bhagavan says that Arjun, you have to fight, but you forgive them from inside and fight outside. Nowhere else you will find that. Gurudev always told us, active resistance to evil is the creed of the Gita. You have to resist the evil, but not with a prejudice or hatred against the evil, but because it is your duty. That as a Kshatriya, Arjun, you have to fight the war, you have to protect Dharma. Don't make this as a personal war. This is not a war for property. Because Pandavas were ready to compromise for the sake of peace, saying, give us only one house, it doesn't matter, we don't want the kingdom. So they went to that extent because peace is most valuable. So they are not fighting for property. So it's not a war for property, but it's a war for principles and for Dharma. So he says, Arjun, if you go away from here, don't think that you are a Param Vairagi and then you have done something great and have saved all the lives of so many people. But you would have fallen from your duty. And don't think that if you kill all these people, you will incur sin. That will happen if you do it with attachment. So he says, Labha Labha Usamav Krutva. Jaya Jaya, victory and failure, gain and loss. Make it all that equal. Tato yuddhaya yujyasva, naivam papam avapsyasi. You fight for the sake of fighting, meaning be steadfast in your duty, forgive them from inside, and what is your duty, you just do that. So we invoke forgiveness in our heart, and Mahabharata is one stunning example of continuous atrocities being done against the Pandavas, and yet person like Yudhishthir remains firm in Dharma. He does not retaliate. He keeps accommodating and he keeps forgiving. That is what makes him so steady and strong. We generally make Arjuna as the great hero, but Yudhishthir is a greater hero actually. How to remain steadfast in one's Dharma and live those values of peace, of forgiveness, of love, compassion. So Raga and Dvesha, they both have to get neutralized. So through this sadhana, where we invoke forgiveness, where we invoke love, common way to invoke, I have told you separately Raga and Dvesha how to overcome. But a common way to get out of Raga and Dvesha is three things. Invoke Vairagya. Vairagya means absence of Raga and Dvesha. Two, work together in a yajna spirit. In the Gita, that is the best method which is given. That when we work together for a common cause, sinking all our differences, we learn to rise above likes and dislikes. Just imagine if this bhavana is there in us, even in this coming elections which are going to happen now. If India is kept at the top, everyone else comes together for the cause of India. But everything is simple. But if there is no higher purpose, individual selfishness will keep increasing. And this happens everywhere. In a family, in a company, in a country, in a community. So we are not able to keep something above ourselves and work together, sinking the differences. But we have to cultivate that. Only then we will be able to go above raga and dvesha. So one is invoke vairagya, second is the yajna spirit with which we work, and third is that if we cultivate more and more of devotion in our heart, bhakti transforms raga into anuraga. And more love for the Lord is there. Objects we don't even bother about. If this much we do, then raga dvesha reduces, tanu avastha. And the fourth stage is dagdha avastha, where raga dvesha gets burned and destroyed totally. That happens only when a person awakens to the self through the contemplation. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. So if I have done the sadhana stage, I have reduced the raga and dvesha. With such a reduced raga and dvesha, one can say Name Dvesha Ragav. With the mind full of raga and dvesha, one cannot say Name Dvesha Ragav. It is only fooling oneself. Hence the earlier preparation should be done. Name Dvesha Ragav. Name Lobha Moha. Lobha is greed. And one says, one has to understand that Lobha is the cause of all sins. It is said, Lobha papasya karanam. Lobha only causes us to do sin. Not being happy with what I have, there is a greed. And that greed is unending. It is also called Trishna, insatiable thirst. No matter how much one gets, one is still greedy. And this is not only about money. There is a greed for fame. There is a greed to listen to the praise. There is a greed to get emotional satisfaction. Greed is in many areas. So how does this greed go? First is the practice of contentment, santosh. That can I be happy with what I get? It is a very wrong philosophy today that people propagate. That I am not content with what I have got. I am hungry for more. Then keep remaining hungry. What to do? One feels that if I have contentment, I will not progress. But it is exactly reverse. The more contented the mind is, the more peaceful the mind is, the more creative it is, more sattvic mind is, the more out of the box it can think, more innovative it can think. On the basis of discontentment, on the basis of insecurity, one may grow this much. But on the basis of contentment, one will grow much more. And yet, one will be happy also. So it's a materialistic philosophy which tells us don't be satisfied with what you have got. To rise higher in life, I don't need only ambition. Because we think ambition is the only way to grow in life. See, for a tamasic person, to push that person out of tamasic state, ambition is ignited in the mind. That come on, get up, your life, you should make it, work it. People should know who you are and push that person from tamas to rajas. When a person comes to rajas, along with that ambition and success, one will feel a lot of stress also. Then the person starts looking out for stress relief. Then what to do? If the person has seen through this very clearly, one will go to the next level. That I grow not out of ambition, not out of comparison, not out of insecurity, but I grow out of inspiration. Because I love this work. I am inspired by this ideal. And that ideal is so high that it constantly motivates me to strive. That's why Gurudev used to tell us, keep the goal so high that you'll never reach it. Why? Because reaching the goal is not the goal. Striving to reach there, moment by moment there is growth in that. Spirituality is not against us reaching the goal. We should reach also, no doubt in that. But keep the goal so high that that very goal inspires me, not what I get when I achieve that goal. That when I achieve that success, then I will be famous. Then I feel I have done something. Then I'm not in love with the goal. I am in love with the result that comes after achieving the goal. So let there be contentment in life. Let there be inspiration in life. Then this lobha will go. When I count my blessings and gratitude comes into my heart, then lobha will go. Otherwise there will always be insufficiency. Again, when it says here, Name Lobha Moha, a realized person, there's a very nice shloka in the 3rd chapter which says, Yastu Atmaratireva Syat, Atmatriptascha Manavaha, Atmanyevacha Santushtaha, Tasya Karyam Na Vidyate. Here is a person who finds Rati. Rati is the sense enjoyment in the self only. Tripti, emotional satisfaction also in the self. And Santushti, contentment also in the self. So the self-knowledge is such that a person becomes fulfilled. Self has no lobha, self has no insufficiency. So Name Lobha Moha. Again, lobha is such a thing that pushes a person out. So in life the movement is this, if I understand, from being static, that is tamasic, I come to ambition. From ambition, I go to inspiration. In inspiration, when the mind is very sattvic, I go to contemplation. And from contemplation to the self. This is the journey in life. If I know this very clearly, I will keep moving. I will not get stuck with ambition. So, Name Lobha Moha. No lobha. Moha goes, what is moha? When I see clearly a thing as it is, then moha goes. Moha is to see something opposite. Where there is sand in the desert, I see water. Where there is a rope, I see a snake. In the same way, my nature is happiness, but I don't see that. And I think I am this, then that is moha. So not to see a thing as it is, but to see it as something else. And in fact to see it as opposite. That which is infinite is seen as finite. That which is happiness is seen as misery. How does that moha will go? Under the influence of moha only the desires arise in our heart. Because we think happiness is there. So Bhagavan says here, Name Lobha Moha. Moha goes when I have clarity of thinking. I think before I just impulsively go by whatever desire arises. That is it really there? Like a traveler who pauses and sees clearly, is there really water? Or if I am seeing the snake, I put a torch and I see clearly, is there a snake or actually is it a rope? So thinking helps us to see clearly and to get out of moha. Matsarya. Mado naiva. Mada is intoxication. One is intoxicated by, let us say, wealth. I am so wealthy, I am so rich, I am so powerful. Or one is intoxicated by beauty. I am the most beautiful, most handsome. or one is intoxicated by, let us say, wealth, power, different things by which one is intoxicated. How does one get out of that mother? You know, the word Madhira also comes from that mother. Madhira means alcohol, intoxicant. So how to get out of this mother? Remember the temporary nature of that. Shankaracharya ji says in Bhaj Govinda, Ma kuru dhana jana yauvana garvam harati nimeshat kala sarvam. In a split second it will all be taken away. So it is very temporary. It lasts for a very short time. Whether it is power, youth, wealth, whatever it is. It may appear to be a long time, but it is very short. And there, one is to see the temporary nature of that it comes and it goes. I am not great because of them. Just basic vivek, no, it is. That do I need the object or the object needs me? Object is there, without the object I can still live. It's only a functional utility. But we live as though without that we can't live. So I can be independent of the object. Who needs whom must be clear. That I don't need this object. Even without wealth I can be happy. Even without youth I am happy. One comes to that state of clarity. So mother goes when I understand the temporary nature, when I have clarity, and mother also goes when I remember death. That one day this will all remain here. दुनिया में कमाए क्या हीरे क्या मोती, दुनिया में कमाए क्या हीरे क्या मोती, यारों ये याद रहे कफन में जेब नहीं होती. That we will not take anything with us. So what mother, what are we talking? This body will remain here. It will perish. It will become that pot, bundle of ashes. Wealth will remain here. Name will remain here. Everything will remain here. So what is that intoxication that I have? If at all I have to be intoxicated, I should be intoxicated by the name of the Lord. I should be intoxicated by dharma. I should be intoxicated by the Atma, the self. That's why Kaupina Panchakam is a beautiful composition. Vedanta Vakyeshu Sadaramantaha Bhikshanna Matrena Chatushti Mantaha. They live on Bhiksha. They don't know where the next meal will come from. They don't have any proper house or anything. But because their mind is reveling in that Atma, Ashokavanta Karunaikavanta, they have no grief in life. Mother is directly related to ego and grief. So Madho Naiva, Matsarya Bhava. No Matsarya also in me. Jealousy. Jealousy arises when we start doing comparison. If you see in the Mahabharata, Karna is much more talented than Arjuna. Duryodhana had Balram to teach him. Balram was his guru and he was so powerful. He could have actually defeated Bhima. But the comparison, whole life, they kept on comparing. So they could not manifest their potential. Comparison eats away our own potential. Same thing happens in the competitive world also. When we keep comparing, if the focus is on one's own self, best will start coming out more and more. So comparison can go if I start focusing on myself and seeing how I can keep improving. And also jealousy goes when I learn to appreciate and admire. You know, Shakuni is so cunning. But you see the greatness of Bhagavan Krishna. Bhagavan Krishna tells Arjuna, I don't remember, he tells Arjuna or he tells Yudhishthira. So one of them he tells. He says that in the entire Aryavarta there is nobody more intelligent than Shakuni. But his entire energy is in the wrong direction. And you know, the Shakuni's motive was so clear. He was there with the Kauravas to destroy the Kauravas. You just think about that. Because Bhishma took Gandhari by force, he said, I will destroy this Vamsha. And he was there to destroy the Kauravas, and Kauravas did not realize that. They thought that he will help them to destroy Pandavas. And who got destroyed? They themselves got destroyed. That is what attachment does. They make us blind. They were so engrossed in trying to destroy Pandavas that they didn't realize that the cause of their destruction is Shakuni right here with them. That's what jealousy does. That's what attachment does. So all these are the modifications of the mind, and by sadhana we have to reduce these so that the contemplation becomes steady, and then we say Name Dvesha Ragau, Name Lobha Mohau, Madho Naiva Menaiva Matsarya Bhava. If these negativities they go away, that mind and intellect will become very sattvic. Only that sattvic mind and intellect can contemplate. Na dharmo, na chartho, na kamo, na moksha. These are four purusharthas. And these purusharthas are necessary for giving direction to human energy, human thought. And these are stages. Stages in evolution. From desire to desirelessness. These are the stages of evolution. So dharma is the first to learn. I have to learn about how to live in the world. Then the next stage is artha and kama. So first 25 years I learn. Next 25 years I earn. And I burn also. Burn whatever is on, and in that process get burned in samsara. Gurudev used to say, who is a samsari? Very interesting definition. Who is a samsari? One who is always somewhat sorry is a samsari. No matter what he gets, he is always somewhat sorry. And then he will joke that why is he always somewhat sorry? Because he holds on to someone's sorry. So he is a samsari. Meaning attachment. So second stage, Grihastha life. What is the success of a Grihasthi's life, if you ask? In our culture it is said the success of a Grihasthi's life is Vairagya and Bhakti. Not making the children settled. That is a duty that one has to do. But success of a Grihasthi's life is, if my 25-30 years of Grihasthi life has given to me enough Vairagya, saying I have seen everything now. Name, fame, power, pleasure, prosperity, everything I have seen. There is nothing more to be seen now. Turn the mind towards the Lord. Either Vairagya has come to us based on Viveka, then Grihasthi life is successful. And that Bhakti, both will come together only, not one after the other. To the extent Vairagya is there, Bhakti will come. So in that 25 years I do that. So pursuit of Artha and Kama is not for the sake of Artha and Kama. It is to actually give me Vairagya from Artha and Kama, saying enough, there is no happiness in this. I have seen it now. Navidyena tarpaniyo manushyaha, Upanishad says that. So Artha and Kama cannot lead to fulfillment. One sees that very clearly. Then one turns towards moksha. So Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. Slowly, slowly. So first stage is learn. Second stage is earn and burn. Third stage is U-turn. Enough now. Turn towards the self. Take a U-turn. And slowly, as the mind is withdrawn from worldly duties, responsibilities, turn more towards the Lord. Fourth is sannyas, the last stage, which is the stage of no return. Meaning, gaining the knowledge of the self, there is no return back to the realm of ignorance. Now, these four purusharthas are for a person who has the jiva bhav. As long as jiva bhav is there, to weaken this jiva bhav, these four purusharthas are there. To reduce the desire, the four purusharthas are there. A person was awakened to that state. In that state, there is no purushartha. Why? Because purushartha is only for gaining what I don't have. Atma is always Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Swarupa Atma. So it is beyond any achievement. That's why Atma Gyan actually in the Kaivalya Upanishad is a beautiful word for it. Atyashramastha. Atyashramastha means Atma is that which is beyond the four ashramas also. Moksha is only that I become aware of that. It is freedom from the sense of Jiva Bhav. When the freedom from sense of Jiva Bhav happens, when a person realizes that my nature is Chidananda Rupa, the doership goes, enjoyership goes, Jiva Bhav goes. Hence there is no mukti also for that person. Because the person realizes that I was never bound. That's the beautiful understanding of mukti in Vedanta. Again, nowhere else this is found. Everywhere else the bondage is taken to be real. And then I have to fight and I have to get out of the bondage. Vedanta says no, bondage itself is unreal. But from which standpoint? From the highest standpoint. When I wake up to the truth, I realize that I was never bound. So Vedanta doesn't say that you are bound and by self-knowledge you will become liberated. No, that is in the sadhana stage. The highest understanding in Vedanta is there is no mukti, there is no bondage also. Moksha is not opposite of bondage. Moksha is a sthiti which is always there in spite of bondage. That is understanding of Vedanta. That I am the waker even while the dream is on. That is Vedanta. So that's why he says that na dharmo, na chartho, na kamo, na moksha, chidananda rupa, shivoham, shivoham. So for today we will stop here. We will do some contemplation.
Hari Om. This is a reminder for the Samashti Bhiksha which we are going to have today after the evening talk. If you have not yet registered, please register today. And morning talk and evening talk, audio CDs will be made and it will be made available to you. So those who are interested, it is 100 rupees each. And video DVD will be rupees 200 for morning and 200 for the evening. And please register for Samashti Bhiksha. Hari Om.
Tomorrow is the last day. So as per our tradition, see this knowledge which we are receiving, we receive it by the grace of the Lord and by the blessings of the Guru. Our centenary year of Puja Gurudev's birth is in the next year. So 2015, May 8, 2015 to May 8, 2016, we are going to celebrate that centenary year. So for that centenary year, there is one project that Chinmaya Mission Mumbai has taken up. There are many, but one of the projects I want to share with you is, all of you are very fortunate that you are here in Powai and our ashram is very close by. How many of you have not visited the ashram? Anyone? So I welcome you. Please do come visit the ashram. It's a very beautiful temple there. There is Gurudev's Kutia there. All of us have studied there. It is our Gurukul. Residential Vedanta course happens there. The next course is going to start on Ganesh Chaturthi this year. So systematic training is given to brahmacharis, seekers who are wanting to know this truth. So in this Pavai ashram we have Gurudev's Kutia. Gurudev has come, lived there for many years, and for the centenary year our project is that we are going to have an outdoor exhibition of Puja Gurudev's life, a permanent outdoor exhibition of Puja Gurudev's life, work and teachings. The name for it is Chinmay Pradeep. And this Chinmay Pradeep name also is actually given by Gurudev. To the Chinmay Mission lamp he gave that word, Chinmay Pradeep. So we are going to construct an entire permanent exhibition out there so that Gurudev's life and the work of Chinmay Mission, that is the headquarters of Chinmay Mission, so people would come to know more and more about it. So towards that project, we are working. This kind of an outdoor exhibition, till now we don't have in Chinmay Mission. Even otherwise, outdoor exhibition like that in form of only sculptures may be there in very few places. Most of the places, even in the mission, we have in a closed room, the whole life and work, everything is displayed. So this is going to be outdoor. This is a very unique exhibition. If anybody knows, if you are aware or if you yourself are into, you can suggest different mediums which can be used, which are dynamic, by which we can display the information about Gurudev's life and his work. Number one is please contact me. Number two, this whole monument is an expression of our gratitude towards Puja Gurudev. So this knowledge, he came down from the Himalayas, he gave to us, and without him, we would not have even become aware of this knowledge. So if you feel that last few days that you have been coming here, you feel that that has helped you, that is helping you in transforming your life, and you feel that you would like to offer something in gratitude, do offer whatever best you can. The Guru Dakshina envelopes have been given to you. There is no compulsion on anybody, but we do this as our offering of gratitude towards the Guru Parampara, to discharge our rina, our debt towards the great rishis. Whatever you offer, we will use it for the project of Chinmay Pradeep. There are also many activities of the Chinmay Mission in the envelope you would have received. How many of you get Chinmay Sandesh? And how many don't get Chinmay Sandesh? Okay, so quite a few of you. Chinmay Sandesh is our monthly newsletter, which will keep you updated about all our upcoming programs. It has interesting articles to reflect upon. So the membership for Chinmay Mission is only 400 rupees, and you keep getting the Sandesh every month. And there are other privileges of membership also. So those of you who are not members, I would request you, please do become the members and be in touch with the mission. There are magazines for elders, Tapan Prasad, for the youth, Chinmay Udghosh, for the children, Bal Vihar. Subscribe to those. And we also have 3 special courses. So you can learn Vedanta at your own pace, in your own house, either through correspondence or through email. So there is a basic Vedanta course, then advanced Vedanta course, and there is a Gita course, Bhagavad Gita course. So each month 2 lessons will come to you. You go through them, answer a questionnaire, send it back, next 2 lessons will come. So between 12 months to 18 months, these 3 different courses are there. You can enroll for any of them and learn spirituality systematically at your own pace. And lastly, there are other options if you want to volunteer. There's a lot of work that we have to do. So if you want to volunteer and offer your seva, or you want to join a study class or a bhajan group or a Yuva Kendra class, and please tick the appropriate option. Tomorrow when you come, you can, at the end of the talk, you can offer the Guru Dakshina and collect the Yajna Prasad. Now let us contemplate for 10 minutes. Please sit erect. The head, the neck and the spine in a straight line. Close your eyes gently. Be aware of the body, from the head to the toes. Be aware of the breath. Let the breathing be slow, steady and deep. In the space between the two eyebrows or in your heart, visualize a circle of white light. Invoke the auspicious form of the Sadguru or the Lord. With folded hands, we are at the feet of the Sadguru, the Lord, seeking the grace and blessings for Atmanishta. Together let us chant. Gurur Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. When our heart is filled with Guru Bhakti, Raga, Dvesha and the 6 impurities, they get destroyed. Guru Bhakti leads to surrender of the ego, and negation of the false identification becomes easy. Feel that the grace of the Sadguru is with you. and let us contemplate on the self.
मनोबुद्ध्यहंकार चित्तानि नाहं न च श्रोत्रजिह्वे न च घ्राणनेत्रे न च व्योमभूमिं न तेजो न वायुः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं 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 सदा चिन्मयोऽहं सदा सच्चिदानन्दरूप शिवोऽहं 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 सदा चिन्मयोऽहं न च प्राणसंज्ञो न वै पञ्चवायुः न वा सप्तधातुर्न वा पञ्चकोशः न वा पाणिपादौ न चोपस्थपायुः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न मे द्वेषरागौ न मे लोभमोहं मदो नैव मे नैव मात्सर्यभावः न धर्मो न चार्थो न कामो न मोक्षः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न पुण्यं न पापं न सौख्यं न दुःखं न मन्त्रो न तीर्थो न वेदा न यज्ञाः अहं भोजनं नैव भोज्यं न भोक्ता चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न मे मृत्युशङ्का न मे जातिभेदः पिता नैव मे नैव माता न जन्म न बन्धुर्न मित्रं गुरुर्नैव शिष्यः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं 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 सदा चिन्मयोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं सदा चिद्घनोऽहं सदा सच्चिदानन्दरूप शिवोऽहं 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 शिवोऽहम् अहं निर्विकल्पो निराकाररूपः विभुर्व्याप्य सर्वत्र सर्वेन्द्रियाणां सदा मे समत्वं न मुक्तिर्न बन्धः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं 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 सदा चिन्मयोऽहं सदा सच्चिदानन्दरूप शिवोऽहं 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 सदाचिद्घ्नोऽहं शिवोऽहं 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 शिवोऽहम्
By the grace of the Lord, may we all realize the self as our own nature. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari Om. Rub your palms, place them on the face and gently open your eyes.